make it better, baby, yeah. It's about when I'm with you. Little of me, a little of you. A little bit of us together, baby, yeah. Light up the hookah. I don't smoke no reefer. I know it's February, but we still got the tree up. Bob Marley vinyl, spinning like the cosmos. Pour another Cosmo. I'ma do what I do. Cranberry liquor. I ain't got no makeup on, 'cause I be chillin'. Baby, I know what you want. Time for, baby, making time for. Boy, you know it's time for. Together, baby, yeah. Make a line with a little more wine, feeling sublime. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Baby, you know it's about when I'm with you. Little more love is never enough. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Never too much. So light up the hookah. I ain't got no reefer. I know it's February, but we still got the tree up. Bob Marley vinyl, spinning like the cosmos. Pour another Cosmo. I'ma do what I do. Cranberry liquor. I ain't got no makeup on, 'cause I be chillin'. Baby, I know what you want. Time for, baby, making time for. Who you know it's time for.
Like what you wanna be when you grow up. That put a target on me. I should've kept my mouth shut. To know your dreams and aspirations, get them a one up. To meet you at the crossroads, they playing this out from the jump. Stock market, your social, that red ink is your banking number. To cash out is to be put behind doors and taking lumber. Working for them or thrown in prison where we mistake each other as inferior. Why they hope and pray that we shake each other. The border's on our back, all we gotta do is stand up. Economic slavery put us in debt with our hands cuffed. Though I still became what I raised my hand for. It's trauma on my mental and the fight gon' be lifelong. Look into my mind,
I'm traumatized.
Look into my home,
I'm traumatized.
Look at how I move,
I'm traumatized.
Look at how I act around you.
I'm traumatized.
Coming up, I always looked at family as superheroes. The blood that we shed is what helped us recoup from zero. My mother said when I pass on, stay close with your brothers. Keep it love, no sibling rivalry, trying to hurt each other. But soon out of sight, out of mind, had took its toll. I turned a blind eye to certain addictions. When it's cold, it cuts straight to the bone. In the process, you lose your soul, leaving invisible tears on a face that's growing old. To me, life as I knew it came to a standstill. I feel like a clean shirt that got thrown in the landfill. Though I still became what I raised my hand for. It's trauma on my mental and the fight gon' be lifelong. Look into my mind,
I'm traumatized.
Look into my home,
I'm traumatized.
Look at how I move,
I'm traumatized.
Look at how I act around you.
I'm traumatized.
They don't want no beef. Keep them screaming, what's up? Keep them screaming, what's up? Keep them screaming, what's up? Don't want no beef. To the world, no beef.
no beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run.
What's up?
When it comes to that smoking, they don't want no beef. What's up? No beef. No beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke,
I get it poppin' in the hood. That tough talk, save it. Keep acting like a life until you meet with David. Go ahead and let that beast come out. I be the one to tame it. These niggas talking that money, I be the one to change it. So get your frame hit, rearrange quick. These niggas just pulling out guns. Now watch me bang it. Know I can switch up my style while y'all on the same shit. The shell, shed blue scout, head and shoulders getting lit. No, you can die by the gun or the blade. Take your pick, I'm the shit. Make you disappear, that's the magic trick. Disrespect, I'm not having it. Got no respect when you dealing with these savages. Body get destroyed, knife deployed on my rabbit shit.
oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke, they don't want no beef. No beef. No beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke, they don't want no beef. No beef. No beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke,
nigga, you can get it on any given Sunday. Kidnapped on a Friday, dropped off on a Monday. Body parts chopped up, spread out on the one way. My knife game sharp, but my niggas bout that gunplay. No disrespect, a shot to the chest, that'll be your last day. A hitter, go get her. So I hunt in a fast way. Never been on the block, I get money to ski mass way. Put this chrome straight to your disc and put fast play. 100 gang up in this bitch, it get nasty. Head shot will take you to the throat, it get raspy. Bitch niggas pussy, they pussy. If you ask me, bust off, I'm making it rain, that's how I blast.
They don't want no beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke, they don't want no beef. No beef. No beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke, they don't want no beef. No beef. No beef. Oh, I bet you they run. Bet you they run. When it comes to that smoke, the world blow.
Underworld.
Hip hop, hop, hop.
It's all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. But we don't listen to the. Yeah, hey yo, 99% of these rappers be telling fizz, trying to find crap that they packing to sell to kids. They never tell them to be head of a chapter, they tell them to be a rapper, like they all live happily ever after. Although it's nice how some of us getting iced out, kind of a slave riding a wave getting wiped out. The love of the money's the root of all evil, polluting their people so addictive and using is legal. They say they do it real big, unbelievable. You say you do it real big, we don't believable. INDEPENDENT, and they don't know what that means. That's why when these weak G's pretending we envy, but see I'm over that scheme. A real MC, it's like the punch your face, trying to sound all deep. Oh, sunken place, and you're full of. It's all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. But we don't listen to the.
Talking all that tough shit. Come and get me, pal. But y'all got no nerve like a root canal. I'm loyal to a fault line. So when I shake these to the bones, best believe it's assault time. They talking about me, they clocking the watch. The kicks cost 3, I drop 2 on the socks. I watch it iPhones, get hot in our zones. I don't go live, I turn up in time zones. Either she love me or she love me not. I've been known to smoke it out like a hookah shot. They say the finer things in life often come with higher price. Well, the way they treat a bro, might as well have gave me life. And the way I run the track, might as well have gave me nice. And my shit so fly, you might as well give me like. Knock off the boot. You know I go hard. wannabes couldn't fit in my draw.
It's all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. They all full of.
Yeah. First it wasn't. Then you call me a colored man. Then it was Negro, now it's Afro-American. I don't need your names, cause I got my own. I'm the original man who's been lost from home. Now for untold years, no one showed they cared. That all my black people had to live in fear. But now stop, because your tricks don't appear to me. I'm a wiser man now, because I studied my history. Going on the top, I'm still living on a hump. Don't consume white sugar, but you can get these lumps. The lame BS James, fake card playing trumps. I got a poker for a joker if you wanna play Trump. Damn cowardly devils calling me a racist zealous, cause I'm conscious of the truth without fear. And I'm telling, at least ain't dirty priests running around or killing. Got the when I see it, even without smelling it.
It's all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. We don't listen to the. They all full of. They all full of.
But I ain't slipping. These niggas tripping. I'm pistol gripping. Lil' mama keep her hands out, but I ain't tipping. I'm a G, I ain't blood, I ain't crippin'. Yeah, I be sliding, but I ain't slipping. These niggas tripping. I'm pistol gripping. Lil' mama keep her hands out, but I ain't tipping. I'm a G, I ain't blood, I ain't crippin'. These niggas be trippin'. I'm pistol gripping. This thug life a nigga like me live it. Hoes down, G's up, that's what I scream out. I'm a nigga putting down for the dirty south. What the fuck you talking about? Bitch, you wanna see me fall? You got me fucked up, keep my back against the wall. Nuts hang low to the motherfucking floor. Who it is, that nigga coming through, this bitch is endo. Putting it down every time you see me, boy, I'm clean. You can catch a nigga like me up on the scene with my team, know what I mean? Standing tall like Yao Ming. Fuck you niggas talking about, bitch, I ain't green. I'm about my green, nigga. And I'm on a mission daily. It's a must these motherfucking streets pay me. How the fuck you think I'm gonna let these niggas face me? You crazy, man, fuck that shit. That's not your lady. Yeah, I be sliding, but I ain't slipping. These niggas tripping. I'm pistol gripping. Lil' mama keep her hands out, but I ain't tipping. I'm a G, I ain't blood, I ain't crippin'. Yeah, I be sliding, but I ain't slipping. These niggas tripping. I'm pistol gripping. Lil' mama keep her hands out, but I ain't tipping. I'm a G, I ain't blood, I ain't crippin'.
Coast to Coast Mixtapes.com.
Underworld Radio. UWR Priority Artists.
Where's my 40? My 40 acres in my mule. See, I'm trying to keep my cool. They done played us for a fool. Where's my 40? After all you put us through, when the evil is you do, we just trying to live like you. So where's my 40? My 40. But where's my 40? My 40. But where's my 40? My 40 acres in my mule. See, they play me for a fool, so I'm about to lose my cool. Where's my 40? I win all the issue promised me. See, 40 acres is land, I want my property. We can build together, don't gotta be a monopoly. I just wanna live my life without you stopping me. Only got one life to live, I gotta make it. So if you ain't got it to give, I gotta take it. My rent and these bills is real, I can't fake it. And the IRS be on my ass, and I can't shake it. Yeah, I
guess you thought it was cool, cause some graduated from school and got a house with a pool, a watch, bracelet, and necklace that's all covered in jewels. But only the ignorant niggas was fooled. I ain't trying to stunt, I'm trying to move from the back to the front and be equal so all my people can be what they want. Don't take this next statement as a threat or a front, but to be blunt, we better get what we want, motherfucker. So where's my 40? My 40 acres in my mule. See, I'm trying to keep my cool, but they done played us for a fool. So where's my 40? After all you put us through and the evilest you do, we just trying to live like you. So where's my 40? My 40. Where's my 40? Where's my 40? My 40. Where's my 40? Where's my 40? My 40 acres in my mule. See, they play me for a fool, so I'm about to lose my cool. Where's my 40? Cause I know you don't think repaying us was giving us our so-called freedom like you were saving us. The slave masters became cops and they're still slaying us. All because we're misunderstood and they're afraid of us. So you betrayed our trust talking about you saving me. Protect and serve? Nah, it's more like modern day slavery. You send us to the cage of the grave and it ain't savory. America, home of the brave, showing their bravery. Yeah, so we really ain't get a thing. And please don't say you gave us the support to the music game. Cause along with that came the dope, pills and cocaine, and the most addicted drug of them all, better known as fame. So, to make a long story short, your debts ain't repaid, cause you gave us a ball in the court. New whips and chains, some dames, and a few new drugs to snort. Cause in the end, you still coming up short. Motherfuckers, I want my 40. My 40 acres in my mule. See, I'm trying to keep my cool, but they done played us for a fool. Where's my 40? After all you put us through and the evilest you do, we just trying to live like you. So where's my 40? My 40. Where's my 40? Where's my 40? My 40, where's my 40, where's my 40? My 40 acres in my mule, see they play me for a fool, so I'm about to lose my cool. So where's my 40? Yo man, 40. Who got my 40? Where's my 40? Who took my 40? Where's my for real, you got my 40? Hey yo Phil, you see my 40? Where's my 40? Give me another OD, man.
Do me, yeah, I do me. Why wouldn't I? We go wild, turn up like a prison ride. Boss life, boss-ish. Don't cross the boss, you get CrossFit. Roll it up, pour it up. You ain't first floor homes, get your stories up. Your chick bad, but look better in black. We blow stacks and we get it right back. It's nothing to me, big blocks and jewels, get buck shots and blocks, do rags and goofies, tip boots and hoodies, big blunts and booties. Jigging talking guns, but screaming, don't shoot me. We live in R-rated, we ride until we make it. And when we ball for the cash, it's make it, take it. I get money like Brinks and them, and like Mortal Kombat, yo, I finish that.
I'ma let them get away with what they be saying, it's all good. I never gave to a hater like they all would. I've been doing me, I keep it true indeed. Now everyone and every dollar's looking foolish, see. For every one of you motherfuckers with something stupid coming out your gums, there's 100 others that's bumping it. There ain't a chance that you ain't off with it, so come and get it. You know that I don't pay attention to the issue.
Teachers don't think I know enough, mama don't think I know enough. Preacher don't know the Lord enough, thinking this sort of stuff make him think I'm not strong enough. Baby mama says I'm not grown enough. Homies don't think I'm bold enough, cause I ain't single long enough. But I've been on my own enough, fresh flows but blowing up. Whether someone can slow me up, I ain't letting them hold me up. Steadily stacking paper, the rest of them folding up. Never been showing off, but I'm showing out when I'm showing up. Showing up, snakes waiting in mud. There's venom up in them, haters circulating in blood. For black on black crime, never ignorant. I'm getting goals accomplished, I'm back on that grind. If I kill my own people for bragging rights, if I speak proper English, I'm acting white. Y'all funny, I don't have to fight, never had to bite. What them dudes spit, I don't pay attention to the issue.
What they be saying, it's all good. I never gave to a hater like they all would. I've been doing me, I keep it true indeed. Now everyone and every dollar's looking foolish, see. For every one of you with something stupid coming out your gums, there's 100 others that's bumping it. There ain't a chance that you ain't open with it, so come and get it.
With a pocket full of Billie Jeans on with a pocket full of Jacksons. Moonwalking to the bankroll, I got action, action, action. Flexing while I'm in traffic. Take your man then tax him, cause love is not my passion. Sitting pretty, money is the motive, I'm focused. Don't hang with too many cause they bogus. Quick to cut them off, G Nicole, I'm the coldest. Turned into a boss, now I'm back potato loaded. My pockets got my Billie Jeans long and my money steady stacking. You lacking? Okay, I got action. And it's Gabrielle Nicole, so please don't call me Gabby. Mirror, mirror on the wall, now tell me who the baddest. Billie Jeans on with a pocket full of Jacksons. Moonwalking to the bankroll, I got action, action, action. Flexing while I'm in traffic. Take your man then tax him, cause love is not my passion. Billie Jeans on with a pocket full of Jacksons. Moonwalking to the bankroll, I got action, action, action. Flexing while I'm in traffic. Take your man then tax him, cause love is not my passion. If I see a duck, he get plucked, closed caption. My account fantastic. One chick did a somersault, the other did a backflip. My money dramatic. Moonwalking to the bankroll, I be laughing. I just want the money, some more money, and the fashion. If your man don't got no cash, then he ain't up for grabbing. Gucci's in my pocket, no wrench, but I be dressing though. Baddest in the city, you know, and I'm the next to blow. Billie Jeans on with a pocket full of Jacksons. Moonwalking to the bankroll, I got action, action, action. Flexing while I'm in traffic. Take your man then tax him, cause love is not my passion. Billie Jeans on with a pocket full of Jacksons. Moonwalking to the bankroll, I got action, action, action. Flexing while I'm in traffic. Take your man then tax.
Did Short make this beat?
We got smoke to give and we give it for free. Bags in and they in for the cheap. I ain't finna lay out with no freak. I'm hitting that hoe and I leave. Street nigga, I'm pulling out weeds. Started the game, they was sleeping on me. Block 19, I keep it on me. We shot me wrong and we put him to sleep. Get him out of here. We round wise in the Jeep. Me, Glock, Ron, and Reap. I'm fucking up back ends at the mall. I'm spending racks on sneaks. Knock him off the map, delete. Can't have a feast, I tell him to eat. I'm on my way and I ain't reached the peak. That little nigga hot like Texas Pete. Hot. I make your salary every week. I'm in the hills, Beverly. She wanna fuck, let's schedule it. I have a hoe wanna marry me. He say he want smoke, we bury him. Gang on my back, let him. Yeah, these niggas cat like fairy tale. Bitch, I'm good everywhere.
Fuck what you thought, we got big guns. Ride with that Glock, no cap gun. Put that to your head if you owe some. Then pull up on Stunner and smoke one. I got a plug if you need one, cause my niggas moving the whole boat. I got a bitch in a Nissan, I'm finna fuck up that whole throat. Niggas won't smoke, then I'm bringing the chimney. Don't know gymnastics, but might used to send me. This clip extended with alternate endings. Run up a check, I don't never get winded. Niggas can't see me, the windows is tinted. Scoop up your bitch in the motherfucking building. You out of line and I'll put you back in it. I bought a strap just to match with the Fendi.
We got smoke to give and we give it for free. Bags in and they in for the cheap. I ain't finna lay out with no freak. I'm hitting that hoe and I leave. Street nigga, I'm pulling out weeds. Started the game, they was sleeping on me. Block 19, I keep it on me. Reach at me wrong and we put him to sleep. Get him out of here. We got smoke to give and we give it for free. Bags in and they in for the cheap. I ain't finna lay out with no freak. I'm hitting that hoe and I leave. Street nigga, I'm pulling out weeds. Started the game, they was sleeping on me. Block 19, I keep it on me. Reach at me wrong and we put him to sleep. Get him out of here.
Packs coming in from the west side while I'm beating your bitch from the backside. I tell her open the mouth wide, she take a hit like the front line. Put him to sleep, it's bedtime. That chopper sing nothing but lullabies. Real nigga, I'm not the mother guys. I fuck a bitch out of panty line. I want that head, cat scan. She let me fuck, no lap dance. That pussy tight like a wristband. Pass that to my nigga like Steve Nash. I'm fucking bitches in Calabasas. Mail back to work, can't forget your package. Got it for 12, sell it for 21. Ooh, y'all niggas savage.
We got smoke to give and we give it for free. Bags in and they in for the cheap. I ain't finna lay out with no freak. I'm hitting that hoe and I leave. Street nigga, I'm pulling out weeds. Started the game, they was sleeping on me. Block 19, I keep it on me. Reach at me wrong and we put him to sleep. Get him out of here. We got smoke to give and we give it for free. Bags in and they in for the cheap. I ain't finna lay out with no freak. I'm hitting that hoe and I leave. Street nigga, I'm pulling out weeds. Started the game, they was sleeping on me. Block 19, I keep it on me. Reach at me wrong and we put him to sleep. Get him out of here.
We just started testing, but we hauled them all. Now they they praying for a blessing like an altar call. The way we stay investing, we done bought them all. Our section steady flexing, we be off the wall.
I'ma make the kitty pop and the titty flop. Me go silly with the rock with a steady bop. Eco-friendly with the guap, get the fetty up. I throw a party at my spot, I don't need a yacht. Bring it to a city cop with a semi-glock. I'ma take it to the top, moving up a notch. Wanna walk inside my sock, better tell you not. Because I guarantee we not the same sneaker box. He's a grown off aside, my corpus collapse. Telling me to reconcile with a thing guy. Keep my followers in line like it's Vietnam. Ain't no telling anytime, it can be the bomb. Open up and let me slide right into your mind. That's the government no crime, I'ma leave it blind. Can't speak for all, saying we off the wall. I call the hoop on y'all in due time.
Excited to drop the flow when the beat drops. I go off. Get on the stage, I grab the mic and set the show off. Put your hands in the air, get prepared, I'm about to flame on 'em. Put up the gloves and ring the bell, I spray the bang on 'em. Go ahead, clap for a queen, feeling kinda popular, living a dream. Pop in the game like a dress with a scene, cause I'm owning this name, homegrown in the jeans. Slow up the flow, pause, let me breathe, said the movement, ask my team. Gotta go hard, Wu-Tang cause the cream can't be compared. I'm a new type of breed, dope. Say my name 3 times, you should prepare for the smoke. I put the beat in a choke hold, I'm not letting go, cause I want it, pull up, turn up, ooh, what's good?
Women DMing and be on tilt. Do your body good, it be like milk. Brass up on the wall, it's beyond built. Keep it 100, we be like Will. Plaques up on the wall, it be on tilt. Stacks up on the wall, it be on stills. I dress it like yay, it's all killed. You get it like yay, cause y'all killed this Philly just off the wall. 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 Off the wall.
Haters try to test me, so I shot them all. Now they in the underworld like a Pokeball. Show no mercy, had them pussy cats against the wall. Crack backs like backpacks, I'm going off of y'all. Going for a minute, now I'm back in this. JFK rap activist. Make sure you tag me if you capture this. Gangsta, watch how I master this. Now you know who the master is. Leave both in your mattresses. Flexing with my team is hazardous. Why you suckers really wanna clash with us? Cause this headshot, like the slingshot, shots the slingshot. Suckers backing down, but we not. Watch this fresh flow, spit out like Tide Pods in my mouth. JFK in Jersey in the house, and we wildin' out.
Ride around in my city, pockets like the guy Hickeys. Got a Glock tucked in my swishy. Tell a bitch drop and give me 50. It go wop, wop, they come and get me. Throw a shot back just like a frisbee. Rock a top hat like I'm Biggie. I advise you niggas don't diss me. And my side chick, she so frisky. Yeah, I know it's so risky. See notes around, it's so crispy. You come back around like 360. I'm short, black, and I'm chubby. And my hammer pants, you can't touch me. Got a bad hoe to handcuff me. Keep a knife like Crocodile Dundee.
I can buy my love or loyalty, my soul is overpriced. Life be like B, roll the dice when you're better than a shooter. You know he shots, keep saying he blaming, but only me mugging and spamming your Grammy about that emoji life. But get him in person, I better reverse of that negative person's a poltergeist. Body coated in a winter soldier with no coat when he been in the trench. Like a mama busted open for the coach and then her son is still sitting the bench. That's dry bones and the level that I'm on. You can't track with an iPhone, not a rock star. I'm a fly drone, a loud walk bar, leave your mind blown. Bouncing off the water, spot to be jumping no sky zone. This man boasts Thanos rapping, universe is snapping to the infinity time stone. Not to consume a doom and gloom. Your crew buffoons, your goony goons or looney tunes. Boom boom and spoon of fruity loons. Your fancy pinch, your mans be pansy blooming June. So many bloody moves on Zoom, run on a few, jumping into the booze. Other dudes with another excuse, hitting people up with the news. Got a couple of views, bumping the bruise. I refuse, I got something to prove. So I'm gonna use and abuse, and the drama ensues. Lot of the odds and the ooze, shoes that I'm not gonna lose. Rockin', I got it poppin' and hopping and flogging the pew, dropping the clues. Bombs around, but we wanted with you. Haters started testing, but we hauled them all. Now they praying for a blessing like an altar call. The way we stay investing, we done bought them all. Our section steady flexing, we be off the wall. Women DMing and be on tilt. Do your body good, it be like milk. Brass up on the wall, it's beyond built. Keep it 100, we be like Will. Plaques up on the wall, it be on tilt. Stacks up on the wall, it be on stills. I dress it like yay, it's all killed. You get it like yay, cause y'all killed this Philly just off the wall. 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 Off the wall.
I ain't for the low, but it's all on. Now a little bitch, give me hold on. Hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch, give me hold on. I ain't for the low, but it's all on. Now a little bitch, give me hold on. hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch wanna come on. I ain't for that little bitch so long. Now a little bitch wanna hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch give me hold on. I ain't for that little bitch so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch wanna come on. She listens to living my life. She wanna come fuck me tonight. She wanna come touch me tonight. Her pussy is wearing this tie. She said I'm be swimming all night. Her said I'm be swimming all night. Her booty jiggling when she walk. You see the dimples when she talk. Shorty call me from the West End. She said she flexing with a best friend. I'm in the trap, a little J. I'm in the trap, a little baby. Smoking dope in Lower Cali. I flew my bitch in front of the valley. All of my niggas, they stally. See how he towing their blicky. And he gon' shoot till it's empty. If you not gang, you can't hang. Hold on. If you not gang, you can't hang. Hold on. Goody, he towing that F in there. And he gon' shoot till there's nothing in it. Cody and Snoop bring the straps out. I put that bitch through her back guy. I ain't for the little bitch so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Now a little bitch give me hold on. I ain't for that little bit of so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch wanna come on. I ain't for that little bit of so long. Now a little bitch wanna hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch give me hold on. I ain't for that little bit of so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch wanna come on.
I'm tryna tell her to come on. Lately I've been gone. I've been moving fast. You gon' have to hold on. Amiri jeans, red bottoms, Givenchy for a living. Ain't been in town in so long, but when I get back, I'ma kill it. I put 100 on the freeway. Just call me when they touch down in BK. I got youngins with that gunplay in broad day. It ain't safe where I come from, but you gon' have to hold on. Did it on my own, ain't had no help, I think myself. $1,000 bills, European when I still had to boss up on them niggas. Ain't had no other choice. Everything I said, I mean it. You can hear it in my voice.
I ain't for the little bit of so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch give me hold on. I ain't for the little bit of so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch wanna come on. I ain't for that little bit of so long. Now a little bitch wanna hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch give me hold on. I ain't for that little bit of so long. Now a little bitch give me hold on, hold on, hold on. Now a little bitch wanna come on.
In the 747, doing 120 in the 745. 32 shots loaded in his Mac 11. Drinking since 9, so we already high. Bitch, you're like Trampolines, trampolines, trampolines. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines.
I been running through the jets with all of my woes, tryna run through a check with all of my woes. I swear my schedule is too full. Only got one dick, but all of these hoes. I like my drinks biracial. I mix that dog shit with that light dog, and my girl biracial. Her mama black, but she look white dog. I don't wanna ball no more. I don't wanna flex no more. I don't wanna be this fly, but I can't help myself. Nigga ask Jesus why they call me superb. I ain't got a blemish. Lying to these women like a crooked politician. I just keep it real. Only talk it if I live it. You ain't seen a nigga this early in a minute.
Baby, I'm fly in the 747, doing 120 in the 745. 32 shots loaded in his Mac 11. Drinking since 9, so we already high. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines.
You a nigga gotta flex to remind you. I've been fresh since 9-2. Putting in work for so long, about to blow up like a suicide bomb. Got a fist full of magic beans, chasing with this Michael Jordan punch. Love my project chick, yeah, she reckless, but she gorgeous though. I don't wanna stunt no more, I don't give a fuck no more. I don't wanna be this fly, but I can't help myself. Nigga ask Jesus why. I know you tight, you pussy and you timid. Phony ass nigga with a fabricated image. You can't keep it real. We see straight through your gimmicks. You ain't seen a nigga this style in a minute. Baby, I'm flyer than the 747. Doing 120 in the 745. 32 shots loaded in this Mac 11. Drinking since 9, so we already high. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines. Bitch, you're like biracial. I mix that dog shit with that light dog, and my girl biracial. Bitch, you're like biracial. I mix that dog shit with that light dog, and my girl biracial. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines. Bitch, you're like trampolines, trampolines, trampolines.
World Radio. UWR Priority Artists.
Underworld. Let go. Spit the flow. Rip the show. I ain't knocking, I'm busting out the door. Stay shining 7 days, 24. Know what's my name? Elbow. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this. Spread up in your head like the white cook with soda. Tweaking for these hits cause the game been sober. Bass with the pipe organ, got him on the relapse. Shout again, book, got her hands on the kneecaps. Country rap tunes with the country ass grammar. Ask me where I'm from, motherfucker, this Bama. Southeastern Conference on lock, boy, we lethal. Highland Road Tide and Wood Damn Eagle. You dig? Let go. Spit the flow, rip the show. I ain't knocking, I'm busting out the door. Stay shining 7 days, 24. Know what's my name? Elbow. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. Keep it 100, I ain't studying who is gonna offend. Live by the motto, stand out, never blended in. Been about the cause, no justice, no peace. And I'ma say it clear, fuck the crooked police. Cause you ain't gonna be killing off our chillin' like it's well. We gon' send them same slugs and you straight to hell. The same thing applies to my so-called brothers. Stop putting down and let's build up each other. And ain't nobody begging for no crumbs from the White House. Real change starts within you, not the White House. Man, I'm trying to learn my fuck to be self-sufficient. Elevate the trap, boy, flip it to a business. You dig it? Let go. Spit the flow, rip the show. I ain't knocking, I'm busting out the door. Stay shining 7 days, 24. Know what's my name? Elbow. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. This was strictly for the players and hustlers. Riding I-20 with the serve for the customers. Pushing something foreign or you either Cadillac it. Gotta get it right for the Magic City Classic. And can't forget my queens, you hoes and the strippers. Shake that ass, make it pop on my zipper. I might just tip you, now drop it down low. Bust it wide open, then split like a pro. For sure, let go. Spit the flow, rip the show. I ain't knocking, I'm busting out the door. Stay shining 7 days, 24. Know what's my name? Elbow. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. Throw your fist up in the air like this here with it. Throw your fist up in the air like this here, like this here. Go ahead, go ahead, yeah. Elbow. We stay shining 7 days, 24.
Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. So you know what's real. You know what's real.
Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. So you know what's real. You know what's real. Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. Foreplay, my tongue, it go crazy. We talk, no laziness between. Say she want me fast and I'ma give it to her. Beat that ass down, bend it into ya. But you know it's real. When we make love, you know what's the deal. Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. So you know what's real. You know what's real. Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. So you know what's real. You know what's real. Sexy as hell, I'ma give it to ya. She called me ugly, tell me she love my whole soul, what's to ya? Oh, she know it's real. She know, and she love the deal. Hard body, baby, I get used to. And I know you love me the way you supposed to, I do, yeah. Oh, I know just how you feel. Put it on your soul, and you know it's real. Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. So you know what's real. You know what's real. Fuck your past, baby girl, I'ma give you the future. Them other niggas ain't know what to do, well, I'ma show them how to do, yeah. So you know what's real. You know what's real. New age of hip hop, pop.
Coast to coast can make a wise lady from a crybaby, or change Slim Jim to Slim Shady, or maybe I could hold the world in the palm of my own hand, a land of the no man, be dipping in the river. I can make a snowman shiver, I'm so chill, get any freeze ice with my skill, making glass shatter. I can use my mind over matter. I can make the fattest man get even fatter. I can make the sun turn blue, and everything Roy could do up in the ring, I could do it to you, and it is true. I can make a whole G from a Q. I can't even give that DJ clue and make your dreams come true. I can see through the shadows of the night and make a ton feel like it's light as a kite. Word life, I can make the limelight bright enough for the blind to get sight beyond sight. I could change a village in a tinsel town. I could take a sumo wrestler pound for pound, the world renowned. Sound of my flows get down. I can make it rain all year round. I can do all things, I can do all things that the whole world brings. And with the king on my side day and night, I got to swallow my pride and let God's light shine very bright in my life. I tell you which crew has got my back. I can do all things as my spirit's intact. I got the Lord of hosts on my side day and night. Don't you hear it? The angels, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. To the break of dawn, in the line I be rhyming on. I can transform the day into a quiet storm, and I can start a fire with a fountain on the lawn, or win a game of chess with just a king and a pawn. Even if I'm locked in chains, I can arrange for this whole thing to change from death row to lover's lane. Yo, don't you know I could flow from here to there? I could turn a bum off the street to a mayor. So you asking for civil action and satisfaction? I could resurrect and put the black back of Michael Jackson. I could do all the impossible, like take songs from Marilyn Manson and make him sing gospel. If there's any barrier, I can break through it. I could do anything if I put my mind to it. You can do anything if you put your mind to it, and we can do anything if we put our minds to it. I can do all things, I can do all things that the whole world brings. And with the king on my side day and night, I got to swallow my pride and let God's light shine very bright in my life. I tell you which crew has got my back. I can do all things as my spirit's intact. I got the Lord of hosts on my side day and night. Don't you hear it? The angels, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Look, Lord bless me, shit, I think I need some holy water. Niggas ain't hit me in a while. Damn, he going harder. I dipped you in my world now, show me consideration. She texts me to my phone like, boy, your dick amazing. Fuck these niggas, let them die, that's what you get for hating. Shoebox full of money, boy, I get the cake. My bitch ass big from the back, she look Jamaican. Smoking, get stoned, boy, I'm something like a Mason. I hear you talking, but can't see you, nigga. Stevie Wonder, bring the thunder. Your bitch call my phone, bring a number. Hold over lying, I ain't lying, I'm just stating facts. I'm from a city where there's snakes and some niggas rats. Got it out the mud, I ain't had pot to piss in. Me, myself, and I, we don't want your proposition. Went to jail, 30 minutes, my bitch bound me out. Ford Nick with the cannon, I'm wildin' out. Young niggas, you are not alone, I feel your pain. I remember I was broke, jacking everything. I'm from a block where it was hot, it don't never rain. Now these niggas turn pussy, man, ain't that a shame? Feel my pain, but you can't, cause we are not the same. You's a bitch, you're drunk driving, stay up in your lane. I'm the shit, I'm done rhyming, I'm just giving game. Move my family on the island, I'm on some different things. 40 with the dick, call that bitch transgender. Next tattoo on my back gon' say cash getter. You trash nigga, left you in the past nigga. I'ma help your pussy ass and wrap you in this bag nigga. Shit is easy, heard the tough talk, wait where you at. I'm about to go, T-Tucker boy, get the game. Matter of fact, Christmas presents, hey this shit's a rap. Small gun, big clip, mixing.
I'm outside right now. I'm actually on the block, on my ass. About to spit a freestyle rap. I'm out here. This shit crazy how you can do this shit. If I had this shit back in the day when I was on my thing, this shit be crazy, man.
Underworld ENT coming to you.
I'm out here. I'm out here. Another time I'm out here, gotta drop another bomb, I'm out here, Yo, it's about the nick of time, I'm out here, Your niggas doubting out there, I'm out here, Your niggas know I'm back in the place, y'all, Your niggas about to catch it to your face, y'all, Your niggas getting hit with the face, y'all. shit, well, I'm out here. Your niggas got the fifth, well, I'm out here. You wanna come and get, well, I'm out here. Old styles and you know this niggas out here.
Yo, man, we tuning in. Underwater Official, Underwater Radio Station, Underwater Movement. It's Underwater everything. Yeah!
I'm out here. 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 Your niggas talking heavy shit, I'm out here. Your niggas really wanna get them out here. You really talking real shit, I'm out here. Got the motherfucking cat, nigga.
And the flavor that I'm bringing so legit. The way I dish it, man, it tend to have a kid. Hey. Go ahead and let them know what you be. So stylish, that be me. Michelin say one with the quality. So stylish, what you mean? Excuse me, if I make it look too easy. So stylish, that be me. Michelin say one with the quality. Then the flavor that I'm bringing so legit. The way I dish it, man, it tend to have a kid. Look, appreciate the fact I'm living in them blessed up. Shopping in them razor blade from a fresh cut. When it's talks that I'm cut from a different cloth, more evidence be in the textures. Now haters stop it, I get it poppin', grinding for profit. The victory be sweet and the beats add into the topping. So knock it, you know I got this and no track. If I get a little off, I'm right back. I can't explain it. They like you mad, yeah, mad entertainment. Making a difference, representing with a statement. Signed, sealed, and delivered. This iciness is bound to make you shiver. Why? I'm so ice, make dice soon as I walk through. You're not with the vibe, then don't mess up my mood. A microphone check, yeah, I'm getting one too smooth. Oh, you such a fiend, I'm told, not to mention so stylish. That be me, Michelin say one with the quality. So stylish. What you mean? Excuse me, if I make it look too easy. So stylish. That be me, Michelin say one with the quality. And the flavor that I'm bringing so legit. The way I dish it, man, I tend to have a kid. Hey, the new groove with the new fit. Got my mood on too lit. First had to go fair with the flex. What's next? Let me show you how I do this. Because the flavor that I'm bringing so legit. The way that dish it, man, it tend to have a kid. Got no checks and I've been wrecking ever since. Cooking up, man, go ahead and watch the wrist. Make it hot, I pull up in a drop. Eyebrows on the raise, the way I make people rock. I'm turning up the spot, they pulling all the stops. The bass is hitting hard, it might knock you out your socks. Come on, dawg, know I'm out here cooling with the family. Handsome, so you know what ladies handing me. Let me chill, paint y'all color canopy. Come out looking good even if they slander me. I'm so stylish, that be me. Michelin say one with the quality. So stylish. What you mean? Excuse me, if I make it look too easy. So stylish, that be me. Michelin say one with the quality. And the flavor that I'm bringing so legit. The way I dish it, man, it tend to have a kid. Hey. Now style on them, hey. Now style on them, and the flavor that you bring is so legit. The way you dish it, man, it tend to have a kid. Hey. Know this, being yourself never goes out of style. I woo!
That little shit ain't offending me. I don't care about no enemy. Don't act like you kidding me. And I swear you no friend of me. Street come with a penalty. You nigga don't fuck with me. You didn't come up with me. So just keep that same energy. Just keep that same energy. This shit ain't offending me. I don't care about no enemy. Don't act like you kidding me. And just keep that same energy. I'm lit in this bitch, go off. Shoot at the whip, knock the door off. Pick up my feet, take a load off. Then I pick up my phone, get a bow off. Yeah, designing my fabric now. Hit the bar and we cashing out. That little bitch we didn't have a while. Yeah, you fuck with her, hand me down. Yeah, sauce ragu, set brand new, stealth man new. Now I'm under they skin tattooed. The shit past due is my rear view. Hey, what's up with that attitude? All this is factual. I'm doing what you didn't have to do. You didn't fuck with the dude, I wasn't seeing you. Didn't give a fuck about seeing you. She didn't call me back then, I was bust. Now they see me in public and rush me. But now my heart cold as the slush. And I'm loud in this bitch, you can't hush me. Yeah. Now they ride me like a saddle. Up in this bitch, check the ladder. Yeah, swear the boy pockets got fatter. I'm up. And don't fuck with me now. This shit ain't offending me. I don't care about no enemy. Don't act like you kidding me. And I swear you no friend of me. Street come with a penalty. You nigga don't fuck with me. You didn't come up with me. So just keep that same energy. 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 This shit ain't offending me. I don't care about no enemy. Don't act like you kidding me. Hey, just keep that same energy. I don't care about the arc, we strapped in this bitch. Please don't get whacked in this bitch. Falling deep at the club, just to pop up some bottles and leave out the back of this bitch. I'm on purchase some Zan, just smoking on gas. I'm way too relaxing this bitch. Fuck that hoe, can't keep track of that bitch. Man, I'm texting that bitch, then I'm passing that bitch. Yeah, you can have. I swear I want having shit, now I'm demanding shit. Go to the mall, get the man. Get my load up in packages, cut out my cabbages. I need it off of my sanity. They behave for no reason, raw with no season. I need to charge them with trees. I'm a king, call me Steven. Bitch, catch my semen. I had to bless her like that. City, what you up to? Nigga know it, fuck you. You ain't been around, can't trust you. Pocket swole like a buck dude. You need to reroute. I'm in my bag, no recruit. Just keep that same energy. I wasn't the top. I'm in the trap and I'm counting out the profit. Keep that same energy. I wasn't the topic. I'm in the trap and I'm counting out the profit. This shit ain't offending me. I don't care about no enemy. Don't act like you kidding me. And I swear you no friend of me. Street come with a penalty. You nigga don't fuck with me. You didn't come up with me. So just keep that same energy. 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 This shit ain't offending me. I don't care about no enemy. Don't act like you kidding me. Hey, just keep that same energy.
But I ain't got time for a bitch. I cannot wind it down with a bitch. I won't waste my time with a bitch. Gotta go and get mine. I'm on my grind and this bitch won't stop. Can't block my shine. I'ma get money all on my mind and shit. Gotta put a dime on wrist.
These niggas don't know me. I don't hard to rock, I ain't Kobe. Half a mil split it all with my brodies. We empty the safe, then reloaded. They holding my spot. I was down, I climbed straight to the top. Niggas tried and they played and got shot. Better duck when you hear that.
I'm on some new shit. When we fuck, get it wet like a pulpit. She gon' fuck for Chanel or that Gucci. She buy that shit, she ready for movies. If she fucking a Zoe, it's a Zuby. Just a bitch, my sweater is Coogee. If you lost me right now, who you losing? I want love on these hoes, we can choose them.
Hear my voice, all these bitches go crazy. I get two of these niggas be lazy. I turn pro, all these niggas still training. I started my own campaign. All black bottles, we sipping champagne. Celebrate after we break the bank. Pull up, babe, that bitch give me brain. When we fuck, she be grabbing my chain. God damn.
Back off, little bitch, back off. I'm on my grind, I can't slack off. I run it back, don't need backup. All I know is how to get them racks up.
She like, why we can't never build? I got no time to fucking chill, baby. I really chasing these fucking bills. Just want me bring home another
my girl, but I ain't got time for a bitch. I cannot wind it down with a bitch. I won't waste my time with a bitch. Gotta go and get mine. I'm on my grind and this bitch won't stop. Can't block my shine. I'ma get money all on my mind and shit. Gotta put a dime on wrist.
These niggas don't know me. I don't hard to rock, I ain't Kobe. Half a mil split it all with my brodies. We empty the safe, then reloaded. They holding my spot. I was down, I climbed straight to the top. Niggas tried and they played and got shot. Better duck when you hear that.
Leak, do you know him?
Nah, juice, a nigga don't know him.
Load them sticks and get ready to blow.
Say less, my nigga, I'm blowing.
Hit up check till that nigga is smoke.
10-4, I know checky on go.
We gon' bend the block, yeah, I know they a foe.
Fuck, nigga, we gon' triple the scope.
If they in my phone, you know I'm on go. All my niggas on your block now. Bending your bitch, yeah, now you get tricky. Drop the top, let the shots out. Niggas be talking like they be outside, but when we slide, never pop out. Load them cans, you ready to ride. When you see me, ain't no cop out.
Back off, little bitch, back off. I'm on my grind, I can't slack off. I run it back, don't need backup. All I know is how to get them racks up.
She like, why we can't never build? I got no time to fucking chill, baby. I'm really chasing these fucking bills. Just want me bring home another.
You was my girl, but I ain't got time for a bitch. I cannot wind it down with a bitch. I won't waste my time with a bitch. Gotta go and get mine. I'm on my grind and this bitch won't stop. Can't block my shine. I'ma get money all on my mind and shit. Gotta put a dime on wrist.
These niggas don't know me. I don't hard to rock, I ain't Kobe. Half a mil split it all with my brodies. We empty the safe, then reloaded. They holding my spot. I was down, I climbed straight to the top. Niggas tried and they played, they got shot. Better jump when you hear that.
Shimmy, shimmy, make that cocoa pop. Throw it in a circle for me, let me see it drop. Take it to the floor, I might get on top. Make that ass shimmy for me, show me what you got. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy, shimmy all, ayy. We be lit and talking shit, that's how we parlay. Make that ass shake, this a party. I just wanna see you shimmy, shimmy all, ayy. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy. Got me like gimme, gimme. Now usually I'm not that freaky, but that Henny in me. Now drop that boost, pipe it down, I could have Remy in me. Ain't get the strap and have to write it like a Hemi in me. Wonder what Fendi give me, wonder what Gucci send me. And if I sell it, ain't no telling what this coochie get me. I bend it over, shake it, that's that hoochie in me. Don't get it twisted, I'm a queen, so ain't no goofy in me. I got my girls, they with me, they like to do the splits. Get your money, ho, might leave with a nigga, bitch. I like all my niggas rich, selling dope and hitting licks. Treat them when I do my tricks, shimmy, shake it on his dick. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy, make that cocoa pop. Throw it in a circle for me, let me see it drop. Take it to the floor, I might get on top. Make that ass shimmy for me, show me what you got. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy, shimmy all, ayy. We be lit and talking shit, that's how we parlay. Make that ass shake, this a party. I just wanna see you shimmy, shimmy all, ayy. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy. I call him Timmy, Timmy, cause he be wishing on his booty, scoop me in a Bentley. Ain't got no time for baby mamas, all they do is envy. I make him trick, I got a bag, but he got plenty, plenty. Now let me see that shimmy, yeah, that's that cocoa pop. I make that ass shake, make them jaws drop. I got him throwing cash, diamonds make him cop. Ain't talking wheezy, but he lick it like a lollipop. Lick it like a lollipop. Pull out your camera. I stay running up that money, I got stamina. Tell it, twerk it for me, titties Pamela. If you bust it open for me, might take you to Panama. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy, make that cocoa pop. Throw it in a circle for me, let me see it drop. Take it to the floor, I might get on top. Make that ass shimmy for me, show me what you got. Let me see it drop. Make that ass shimmy, make that ass shimmy for me. Make that ass shimmy, make that ass shimmy for me. Make that ass shimmy, make that ass shimmy for me. Make that ass shimmy for me, show me what you got. Let me see that shimmy, shimmy, make that cocoa pop. Throw it in a circle for me, let me see it drop. Take it to the floor, I might get on top. Make that ass shimmy for me, show me what you got.
Shorty wanna ride my wave. I'm lit. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Oh shit. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. I'm lit. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Oh shit. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. No, shorty gon' ride that dick. Yeah, I was just stunting on the gram. Yeah, let me Snapchat that shit. Whoa, niggas be hating a lot. Ounce of codeine and I stay on the block. Bag me a bitch and I stay in the cut. I pull up with that thing, see me whipping the drop. 357, replay with that Glock. Calling this jacket, she fucking or not. Notice the wave and she all on my dick, but you gotta be bad, we don't fuck with no thoughts. Riding my wave, I'm just trying to get paid. All in the club and I'm on that Douce. Got that shit lit, start hitting my wave. Got that shit lit, start hitting my wave. Whoa, shorty wanna ride my wave. I'm lit. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Oh shit. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. My wave. Shorty wanna ride my wave. Up in the club, we about to get lit. Bottles on deck and we blowing that piff. 100 some I don't see one I'ma get. I got the drip out the walk in this bitch. Whoa, I just pulled up in the Jag. Straight off the line, had to go on my bag. Chasing these checks and I'm ducking these bitches. I'm all on the jet and I'm getting that lag. Whoa, is it the flick of the wrist? No, look at this shit on my wrist. Oh, all of these diamonds, they shining, can't even see what is the time on this bitch. Whoa, I'm in the club with the strap. Looking for me, but you know where I'm at. Niggas on lean, I ain't fucking with that. I got the juice, I ain't giving it.
I'm the queen, I'm the shooter, bitch, I'm mean. Voices in my head, Harley Quinn. Shoot me, I ain't dead, Harley Quinn. The baddest in the city, Harley Quinn. Take the whole trap, Harley Quinn. Wrench a nigga out, Harley Quinn. Bitch, I'm fucking Harley Quinn. Look, bitch, you can't touch me, you're not on my level. So your nigga drinks mouth feet, something clever. Diva D the baddest, bitch, you ain't heard. Back in high school, I was a jock, you was a nerd. Keep the lights low. when I'm cruising ho. Every time they see me, they like, damn, here we go. Okay, my city on, bitch, I don't play. Told you I was getting money, stacking tall. Hey, I get the money and go. Probably so official, certified psycho. Yes, I'm the queen, all you hoes kiss my ring. Bust down wall, so beware of my team. Bitches be talking, but ain't with the shit. I pull the fuck up and empty the clip. Fuck the whole pack, time to re-up, bitch. Long days in the trap, that worth it was a trip. Look, something like a movie, something to watch. Bitches be watching and them bitches trying. Bitches can't touch me cause bitches behind. All of my bitches, we ride and we fine. Trying to come for my brother, bitch, they gon' find. Your ass tied up, turned upside down. They gon' blame Illuminati cause bitch, they won't find evidence linking Diva deep to the crime. You can't touch me, I'm the queen, I'm the shooter. Bitch, I'm mean. Voices in my head, Harley Quinn. Shoot me, I ain't dead, Harley Quinn. The baddest in the city, Harley Quinn. Take the whole trap, Harley Quinn. Wrench a nigga out, Harley Quinn. Bitch, I'm fucking Harley Quinn. Look, that's on the chase while we chasing this paper. They wasting my time, then they wasting my paper. They mugging the club, got no time for the haters. Keep my shades on, I'm with Joker, they haters. I'm fucking the city up with this greatness. Got the whole, got them shaking with the 808 bass. And in my Suicide Squad, got them shook, hell raising. Ain't no Justice League coming, niggas got your heart racing. Look, couldn't get the money and go. Bitches tryna murk me dead shot, head ho. El Diablo, flames burning, I'm the head honcho. Coming real soon, best believe you should know. If it's my team, we gon' fuck up your dream. Put a bag on your head so they can't hear you screaming. I can't help but laugh at the sound of your screams while I'm sipping espresso and robbing this train. You can't touch me, I'm the queen, I'm the shooter. Bitch, I'm mean. Voices in my head, Harley Quinn. Shoot me, I ain't dead, Harley Quinn. The baddest in the city, Harley Quinn.
When I'm writing, I'm in my prime, and I'm always on set. A bad bitch, she a dime, but I put that on my set. That's the 5 in the line. I put my green jacket on. Now it's time to go grind. All I need is the code, the location of the crime. Knife in your stomach, different location of my 9. And the pain I'm gonna give is a pain you can't define. Have you regret in your life? Trying to put it in rewind. I had you look into the sky, yelling, God, give me a sign. Make trends like I'm ancient. Old trees creating vines. What I mean is I'ma eat, succeed at any time. Dig the dirt you under the world, in the world they can't find.
They calling me cold hearted. Maybe I'm cold hearted. They calling me cold hearted. Maybe I'm
catch you slipping like Ricky. Sawed off double barrel, big shells hit the bone in. You can see the marrow cold hearted on the throne, but you can see a feral 4-5 all chrome breeze. And I don't deal with a saint, but you can't play in my dome. I'm Gucci, you not Gucci, I don't deal with clones. And I don't take no disrespect, that's invasion of homes. 100 boys, my suggestion is you sleep alone. And there's no negotiation, so don't answer the phone. Guilty by association, you get charged alone. I keep shooting your head until your brains is gone. Snakes can't live in my grass, I just cut the lawn. And I'm a don, I can't eat, you can't eat. All this eat off my palm. Southpaw, Northpaw, I keep changing my phone. Strong arm, get strong on without lifting my arm. I'm a don, play your pawn or you can play like a pawn.
They calling me cold hearted. Maybe I'm cold hearted. They calling me cold hearted. Maybe I'm cold hearted.
Hard work pays off, I gotta get it, I'm in my prime. You get in my way and catch this nickel, then it's dime. I treat your body like a love seat, the pistol make it recline. It's been a long time coming, niggas wasting my time. I came back with more force, made niggas resign. Niggas back and you was pussy, I gave niggas the spine. Now you wanna disrespect, I'm raging to get mine. Make sure the bullets come in 3, shoot amazing from the line. Give you 5, there's no grazing, I always cross the line, easy one. Why you don't believe me, son? I'll beat you with my hands and I don't even need the gun. You know what it is, my hunters, they don't need to come. I get the weaving and leaning when I'm squeezing the gun. You was think you was dreaming from the slow breathing, no wheezing. You trying to run, no agreement, no disagreement. Believe me, I'm squeezing one. My suggestion is get protection, everyone needs to come.
They calling me cold hearted.